I was doing voice memos on just the team dynamic because I thought I might want a team. Maybe that's something in the future, but right now, like, that's not what I'm trying to pursue. But I was doing voice memos on like, don't like this about the culture. This is what I would change. Love this system in place. And so for that, when I was trying to make my decision if I should stay or go, I went back and listened to my voice memos and it was so obvious. I was like, I shouldn't be here. Like I could hear in my own voice, my frustration and things that weren't in alignment with how I do business. So I'm like, why am I here?
Yeah. Well, let's kick it off.
All right.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Headed Home podcast. We're hanging out with Callie Ammons.
Yay. Ooh, I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you for joining us. I'm having a better week this week. Last week, I went without coffee. Are you a coffee drinker?
I am. I had my coffee on the way here. How was that?
It was terrible.
Let me tell you how it was, Callie.
Yeah, tell me. Did you do it too? Or
no.
Okay.
I just had to deal with him doing it.
So
it was
bad.
like,
why did you do it?
Do you ever get on those kicks? Like, I'll like watch, health and fitness podcasts. Mm-hmm. And so I heard that caffeine was really, really bad for you. It can be, I guess. So I was like, gosh, I do drink a lot of caffeine. I was like, maybe I'm going to kick it for a week. I'm going to see how it goes. Cold turkey.
Wow.
And I'm a coffee drinker.
Yeah.
I know.
Like
see, this is the difference between us.
So
She's very
like, I'm very like I'll like create like a system to like stop or like I'm very disciplined with like, okay, like if I'm going to stop in a month, like this is how I'm going to do it. He will wake up one day and be like, yeah, I'm not doing it anymore. And then stop. He's a Gemini.
That's like the only thing that works for me.
Wow. Well, I mean, if it works for you, but it didn't work for you because here you are drinking coffee again.
I'm drinking coffee again. Yes. Only because that's true. I did go a week. It was brutal. I didn't realize how reliant I was on it.
Yeah.
So I probably should actually try and give it 30 days.
I think here's the hard part with him specifically is like he will like in the Gemini sense is like he will go from like eating broccoli one day and like you came home one day with like a raw liver.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
and then he will decide one week that he is going to pull out 5 boxes of Girl Scout cookies and like
very extreme.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I think that's the funny part to like us family members who like watch this go down because then he stopped doing it.
Do you guys do bets on how long it'll last?
Like,
okay.
Sort of. And like his sisters will be like, is Andrew on one of his kicks right now? I'm like, yes, he is. Yes, he is.
That's so funny.
That's my way of finding a balance. Go extreme on one side, then extreme on the other side, and then you end up in the middle.
Okay.
That is the exact
works
opposite of finding a balance.
I'm glad I'm back on coffee. I would not be the same. We're glad you're joining us. Give us a little background on who you are, what you do.
I'm so happy to be here. So thank you so much for inviting me. And yeah, my name's Callie Ammons and I am in real estate, which is how we got connected. I'm a real estate agent, specifically in Colorado Springs. And I'm a mom of 2 boys, Fletch and Arlo, who are 3, 1.5. Boy names are hard. Oh my gosh. I had girl names picked out. Boy names are hard. My husband Kramer, he's also a business owner. So he owns an archery company. So I feel like just who I am changes, honestly, a lot. I'm like, it just kind of depends. I might have my real estate hat on, my mom hat, supportive wife role where my husband just has a lot going on in his business and I'm handling more at home. But I think who I am, that no matter what external roles change, is just I'm someone that's always seeking to grow myself. That's something I'm so passionate about. And really, when I think back to childhood, I've always been that way. I remember talking to my husband. I'm like, weren't you this way where you would like set goals at 6 years old and write it on a piece of paper and like tape it to your wall? And he's like, no.
Like oh, just me?
You are not normal. Like most people don't do that. And I don't know. I've just always been that way. I think it's part of my personality. But the more I've seen myself accomplish goals and set intentions in my life, the more addictive it is. Really, I'm like, oh, cool. We really can create a lot of motion in our lives based on who we are and what we pursue and everything. So
it's so funny when we got connected, I was like listening to a lot of your podcasts and watching your YouTube videos. And I told Andrew, I was like, oh my God, she's like us. Like, I feel like it's...
She's a weirdo.
Well, no, I think it's hard though. Like, I think when you start down this journey of learning about this stuff, you start to feel like a little weird sometimes around people who like don't necessarily focus on that. And it felt like so exciting. I felt like such a dweeb saying this, but like it felt really exciting for me to be like, oh, here's this mom of 2 kids who like has a business and is married. Like it felt like really nice to me to be like, oh, so like this person thinks about the same stuff that we think about and lives a similar life to us, because we don't find that. Like we don't find that rare in a lot of people.
I agree. I was just voice messaging a friend actually on the way here, and she was saying like, Callie, I feel like the more I'm growing, the smaller my circle of friends is becoming. Yeah. And I was like, that's normal. And that's okay. Like, that's not a bad thing. And not saying you shouldn't have friends. I think you just become more aware of who you're surrounding yourself with and recognize there's people that, we're all on our own path, and there's people that are trying to grow themselves, and there's some people that are complacent in life, and maybe that's okay for them. But for me, I'm trying to become my best self. And it's not this like, sometimes I feel like when I say that, people think like, oh, your life is miserable. You're always just striving and you're never content. And I'm like, I feel this beautiful contentment and like really proud of who I am today and who I've become and like where I've come from, because my life has changed so drastically. My husband and I hit 9 years of marriage this month. And when I think of who we were when we got married to who we are now, I'm like, wow, like we are different humans. And then I'm so excited who we're going to be in 10 years, because I think I'll say that again, and being like, wow, we've changed so much. And it's a beautiful thing. It's like this striving, but also contentment and gratitude for who you are today, but also knowing there's more of who you'll become.
I love that. Do you feel like there's freedom and like discipline in being regimented with like your routine?
I do. I think I've had to release that a little bit since becoming a mom. So I'm still in the beginning stages. Because I'm like, before becoming a mom, I was so rigid to the point that it did bring a lot of freedom. But then that rigidness started like killing me when my newborn wouldn't sleep the exact hours I had calculated. I'm like, what? You don't do what I say? So there's a balance of like releasing it, but also not releasing everything, where it's like, well, I'm a mom now and it's hard to work out, so I'm just not going to work out anymore. It's like, no, I'm going to be disciplined. And I feel a little tired and I've had a long work day, but I know that loving myself is still going for a run or getting in the gym or doing something to move my body is going to help me. So I think it brings a lot of freedom, because it comes down to the individual. But for me, it's like, who am I wanting to become? And like really defining that in detail, and then working backwards, where it's like, now what do I need to do to help me become that person? Because it's not going to happen accidentally. No one's going to do it for me. My husband can't work out for me and get me the body I want. Like, I have to be the one to do it. So, but I also think being aware of what season you're in and setting realistic expectations.
Okay, I heard, and then I do want to get into your background, but I heard you say something on your podcast, which we'll talk about here in a little bit too, about silence and the importance of silence. And we had mentioned before we started recording that our kids are at a summer camp this week. And so I feel like we've had a lot of realizations this week of how much we've been doing and how little silence we've had. And we did, like, we love silence. Like it's really important to us. We do like float therapy and all that stuff.
That's awesome.
But talk to me a little bit about how you think that silence being like embedded into your routine is connected to you understanding yourself and like setting goals and values in your life.
Yeah. Our intuition is so powerful. And if you're not silent with yourself, at least I found I can't listen to my own intuition then. And then I start making decisions based on external factors. So it could be what people say I should do. So I'll just give a real life example. A year ago, I had joined a real estate team in Colorado Springs because I just wanted to try switch up. I had never been on a team. I'd been independent. And I was like, I think I can really learn a lot from people, because I've had my license for 3 years this summer. And my husband and I flipped houses before that. So I've been around the industry, but not really active agent. So anyways, my thought was, I want to learn from people. Sounds great. I'm like, yeah, I'm being humble. Want to like learn from wisdom. So I joined this team, and clear metrics of success is close as many deals as you can. So I'm closing quite a few deals a month, hustling, really doing extremely well according to those metrics. But at the time I had a 2-year-old, a newborn, and I'm trying to get my body like just feeling like myself again after having a baby, trying to get somewhat sleep, just thinking of like my basic needs as a human, trying to eat like protein and good food. But I'm eating out a lot because I'm closing so many deals and living out of my car basically 12 hours a day. Anyways, externally, I'm getting like praised from agents, from my team, from, it just looks good, right? From the outside. But on the inside, I had this moment in my car where I was finally forced to be silent. And I started crying. I'm like, I'm dying. Like, I miss my babies. Someone's with them all day long. And not that I had to like be a full-time stay-at-home mom, because that wasn't for me either. But I was like, this is too much. Yeah. And yes, I'm closing all these deals, but why? And I hadn't taken the time to be silent with myself to ask, what does Callie want? What does my family need? What does my husband need from me right now? What do my kids need? And I had just quickly gotten into this cycle of what success was. And so I quickly made a change where I'm like, I love this team. I love my leader. I still have a great relationship with her, but I was like, I'm done. Like, half of the deals I closed, I could have made the same amount income wise, like being on my own. And it just didn't make sense. Mm-hmm. And they were so supportive. But I mean, I see that as a lesson I learned. But if I would have been more intuitive and silent with myself in the beginning, I think I knew those answers. Like, I could have looked at that in the beginning. And so I wasted a few months, I would say, being there and running that cycle. But it did teach me a very valuable lesson. And then the beginning of this year, I made a commitment to myself that I'm like, this year, I will trust my gut over anything. Even if I can't logically explain it, like, I'm going to err on the side of listening to my intuition, which comes from creating space, which is really hard with kids and working still. But for me, a lot of times it's when I'm in the car, like not immediately turning on a podcast, because I love consuming content. But I'm like, I'm just going to sit for 5 minutes, check in with myself. How am I doing? What do I need from myself today? And it's amazing what comes up from that question when I ask myself that, just when I'm driving. Sometimes it's when I'm getting ready in the morning, getting up early before my kids wake up. And then somehow they know I'm up early and get up early. I'm like, what the heck? But even if it's those 5 minutes, it's crucial. So I wouldn't say I'm perfect at it, but it's something I'm learning to do more and more, because I've experienced making decisions based on external factors that I'm like, what am I doing?
And it's so easy to do. And I really believe that, like, when people are struggling, it's likely because they haven't taken the time to be silent, and they try to like hide that silence. Yeah. And like, you know, you'll go consume things, or like, I'm going to go to the bar, or I'm going to like, and cool. I get it. Like, I've been there and I do it, but like when you're making decisions, or you're trying to like think through those pieces, like, you have to sit in it. Yeah. And that's hard.
It's very uncomfortable. Yeah. I think it's easier to call my mom on a car drive, or text a friend, or listen to a podcast. And those are good things, but it's not good if you're not ever talking to yourself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm smiling just because, like, I've never put together that silence with listening to your intuition, but that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what you're doing. There's so many distractions, though.
Oh my gosh. So hard. You have to fight against it. Like, I'll be the first to admit, like, I'm addicted to Instagram and I don't trust myself. So like, I literally have to delete the app off of my phone. And it's hard because I've built business from using social media and like get clients that way. And I love marketing, but I'm not mature enough. People will ask me, like, how old will you let your kids have social media? I'm like, I don't know. I can't even give myself it, because our culture, our TV, like everything is just designed to keep us enticed, which makes me not feel like myself when I'm a consumer of so much. Yeah. So,
and don't you feel like the older, you said something about intuition, and I'm 41. And I feel like it's just been in the last few years that I've really started to understand that, like, my gut, like you said, like, I always know. And it's never like, sometimes I can't explain it. And it could be like, I'm walking by someone that makes me really uncomfortable. Yeah. And my gut is like, you have to like get out of here. Yeah. I'm like, that's weird. I wonder why. But like, I've learned to really start like listening to that. Yep. And it doesn't make sense a lot of times. It doesn't. Like, at all.
And you sound crazy if you try to explain it. Or like a few weeks ago, I was supposed to do a real estate photo shoot with this photographer, and I had a call with her before to kind of prep for the shoot. And I started feeling that gut intuition where I was like, this doesn't feel right. Her and I aren't connecting. Nothing bad to say about her. It was just like, something is off here. And it was harder to trust my gut because I had to go to like magazine people who coordinated this and asked to cancel it and use different photos. And it was just more inconvenient. And for me as a people pleaser, like in my nature, I'm really learning to undo that. But my nature is being a people pleaser. I'm like, I don't want to look like a jerk or try to explain like, I think I'm better, because I don't. But wow, I canceled it and it was the right thing to do. I felt so much peace that day, and a few other things that came up that day. It was very confirming. That's like, yep, that was the right decision. But it was hard to do because there was more work to actually do that. Right. But I think that grows your trust with yourself. Your intuition becomes louder the more you actually listen to it and obey it. But the more you ignore it and suppress it, I don't think you can understand it as well. You get more clouded.
And you don't trust yourself to make decisions. Right. So like that's, I think when people really start struggling with making decisions is they don't know who they are.
Yeah.
And so they're like, well, I don't know. Like, what do you think? And I think like when you really start to like sit and figure out who you are and what you stand for and what your values are, like you can feel confident in those decisions, even if it sucks to make the decision.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, yeah, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
You know? And even if it's against the norm, like you said, with the example of being on a team and producing at a high level where that's the norm in business.
Right.
And that's what you're praised for.
You're praised for it. Yep.
Yeah. And then going against that.
Yeah. And then it's so interesting. People have asked me this year, like, how's your business doing? And I'm like, better than ever. I feel internally, but you could say externally. It's not like I've closed 50 deals this year or anything, but it's like I am exactly where I'm supposed to be. I'm serving the exact clients I'm supposed to be serving. And I feel so aligned with that. And to me, that's the greatest success ever. Like if I feel that peace and joy, like I'm good.
Well, and that comes across, you know, and when we worked with you, it came across loud and clear with how our buyers reacted to you and what they said about you and just your presence and your energy.
Thank you.
Throughout the transaction and your calmness and coolness. I really liked that. You know, in the mortgage world and the real estate world, these are transactions where a lot can go wrong.
It's our job, right?
Right. To fix but like a lot of people get hijacked emotionally, you know, and it makes it for a really stressful transaction. And you were the opposite of that. You were really calm and cool.
That's awesome because that's what I want to be. And so that's so cool that you guys felt that experience from me. And to me, I serve my clients so much better when I'm actually staying in alignment with my own intuition and who I'm supposed to be serving and not. I think of last year, how many deals I was closing. I don't think I was serving those clients with excellence because I wasn't in alignment with myself and I couldn't show up at the same energy level. They still had good experiences and I did the best I could, but I felt that burnout. And if I'm feeling that burnout, I think that energy is going to come across to my clients, to my family, to my kids, like all of it. And that's just not who I want to be.
I think it's particularly unique because I came from education. So I think what's unique about sales, and we were just talking about it this week with our kids being gone, is you can work like more hours and make more money, right? And so, you know, it would be very possible for us to work more and make more money.
Right.
And like at some point you have to be really clear on what you value and what you want your life to look like. And we were talking about that this week of like, man, like we're not, you know, shuttling our kids to activities every night, which we know really does like impact our time from like that standpoint. But it's also really important for us to be there for our kid. Like we have one chance,
right?
Like they're like 7 and 9. They're going to stop listening to us in like 3 years, right? So like we are like very intentional and very focused on like being there so that we can teach them like lessons that they need to know before they're gone. Before they're gone forever. But we know like the window is very small. And so, you know, for us right now, like, and, you know, kind of similar to what you were saying, it's like, we don't need to be the highest producer in the state of Colorado because like we really value having a relationship with our kids right now.
Right.
And you have to figure out that balance.
Absolutely.
Because if you're not doing that, and you want to do that, it feels icky.
Absolutely.
Inside.
Yeah, I agree. I hit this point last summer where my husband and I were like fine, but I didn't feel like we were thriving. Like there just wasn't time and margin with little kids and how much I was working in him. And I had this moment where I'm like, this is the point where people keep going and wake up in 10 years and they're like, ooh, like I don't know my spouse anymore. I don't like them. Or even your relationship with yourself or like your body. You're like, how did I get here? Like, how did I let myself slide? And I was just like, I'm done. Like, I refuse to let that happen to me because if I say I care about my marriage, I say I care about myself and my health and my kids, are my actions actually showing that? And my answer was no. Like when I looked at my schedule and where all my time was going, I'm like, there's like maybe 1 hour a week for myself here, a few hours with my kids, maybe an hour with my husband a week, like that. my life word is intentional. And I was like, I am not being intentional in these areas, and I have got to get my crap together. So I was like, we're done.
Mm-hmm.
So you said even since you were like a little kid, you were geared that way, right? Like you were aware, you were making goals, you were, so there wasn't like was that a parenting thing? Like did your parents push that on you? Or was it just like you were unique in that way?
Yeah. So many people have asked me that. And it's interesting because there's 4 of us kids. So I look at my 3 siblings and I'm like, they're all, I guess, motivated in their own way, but we're all so different. So I don't think it was a parenting thing, but my parents were big on sports and enrolled us, or I would say put us in the right environments for me to learn to be driven and disciplined. Like I definitely had opportunity, but I do think a lot of it is just personality. I'm really into the Enneagram. That's a former career I did, was Enneagram life coaching, which is a personality assessment. And so there's 9 different personality types. And my personality type is a type 3. And the Enneagram philosophy believes that you were born into that personality. Like your environments can help shape it, but really your personality can't change. You can change as a person, and maybe you misidentified as a different type at one point, but really your personality is like core to who you are. So for me being a 3, that's called the achiever. Mm-hmm. And so I see that as a kid where I'm like, I think from an unhealthy motivation, sometimes I had always wanted to achieve so that I would be approved and validated and affirmed by people in an unhealthy way at times. But then sometimes that energy can be used in a healthy way when you learn to use that in the right direction of goal setting. So I think as a kid, deep down, I never felt smart. I never felt like the prettiest friend. I never felt like the fittest girl. And so I think I always felt a little behind in life. And so I probably was trying to outwork whatever that situation was that I wanted to seek validation from people and be affirmed. So I would work a little harder. It's really interesting thinking about like what that came from. Yeah. But from a young age, I think I was very motivated by that. Even so I have a brother and then 2 sisters. And even like my sisters, I just felt like they were so pretty and so obedient to my parents. Like I was the rebel. And I just felt like I had to work harder to like get my parents' validation in a good way where I wasn't just getting in trouble. And so I don't know. It's really interesting. But I do think I've always been that way from a personality standpoint. And then I think as I've matured and grown, and my husband, like he is the biggest supporter of me. He's like, anything you want to do, like you literally can do. And I got your back and I will support you with anything. And he truly has done that. He is my biggest cheerleader. And I see like the transformation of my life, the past really 12 years that we've been together. I have become such a different person. I've become so confident where I used to be so insecure. And I think having someone like that behind me, just speaking life over me and believing, even if we don't logically see the clear path, he's like, you'll figure it out. Like that's who you are. So I think he's helped to bring that out of me, like the goal setting and having vision so much more so in a healthy way because of just the way that he has my back.
That's awesome. I love the personality tests. I just learned about the Enneagram test from prepping for this podcast.
I made him take it this morning.
We took the Enneagram test.
Well, I took mine a long time ago. So I was a 3 with a 2 wing.
Okay. That's exactly mine. Nice.
I'm a 1. I don't know.
I can see that.
2 wing. Yeah. He's
perfectionist.
Yeah.
But the 2 is someone who's really good with people. Like you want to be a helper, and 1s and 3s are very similar personality wise. We just have different motivations.
I'm a 3.
So you both are 3.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it makes sense. 1s, 3s, and 8s tend to get along really well because we're all very driven people, like just naturally.
Because we're all psychos.
Pretty much. And other people are like, wow, they need to calm down.
And really, a little bit. You guys are getting
It's super interesting, though. I like it a lot. Like, it's a cool, I mean, I just did a little bit of research on it and was, on YouTube and yeah. It's awesome. I love personality assessments, like so many of them. And the Enneagram is one that my favorite part about it is how it shows you what you look like when you're in health and unhealth. Mm-hmm. And the truth is that we're all human. So we have moments of like, yikes, we need to reel that back in. And times that's like, wow, you're in alignment with yourself. You're actually not operating from ego, and just what that can look like is so beautiful. And so for me, I like that because I'll hear things coming out of my mouth and I'm like, yikes, like that's my unhealthy pattern happening. Yeah. Like what's going on? Like, why am I maybe insecure in this moment? Or why am I trying to like boost my ego right now? And you can like quickly check yourself back into place versus some personality assessments are just like, you're outgoing and you're chill. And it's like, cool. What am I supposed to do with that? But this tool can really help you if you choose to dive into it pretty deep. Yeah.
How has that helped you in your real estate business?
I think first it's helped me with understanding myself and my own skill set. So in this business, as you guys know, there's so many different ways to be successful. You can door knock, you can phone call, you can do referrals. And I think in the beginning, I got really distracted by listening to other voices, but have really brought it back to like, who's Callie? What's my personality? What am I really good at? And what do I hate doing? And it's like, don't ever do that. Like, I hate door knocking. If someone comes to my door, I'm like, no, thank you. I am
You like
not
hiss at them like,
Yeah.
like
literally,
I
I that's not how I
Same.
do sales. Like, I'm not a pushy person. I'm the type of agent that'll talk a client out of doing a deal if I literally don't think it's best for them, because that's who I am. So I think it's first helped me by understanding my own personality and making sure that I'm operating out of a healthy place and staying in alignment with my skill set. And I know that I'm not for every client. Like, there's certain clients that are really going to connect with me, and there's ones that I'm like, bye. Like, I'm not the right fit, and you'll be happier with someone else. Then the second thing I think is I don't type my clients, because really only you can type yourself. There's like 1s, 3s, and 8s, how I mentioned, are similar. So externally, I could have probably narrowed down Andrew. That's like, yeah, you're probably one of these 3, but I wouldn't know, because I don't know your motivation.
You are a psycho.
No. But it's like, I don't know your motivation. So with clients, I don't necessarily type them because I don't know their motivation, but I can see patterns based on how they communicate, how they carry themselves, how they interact with maybe their spouse, their kids. And that really helps me know how to shape shift like my own energy in those listing appointments, or when I'm showing houses where I'm like, okay, this person really cares more about the emotions of buying, and I'm going to completely meet them right there. And I'm going to go all in on the emotional side and figure out how to help connect the dots for them in a way that actually serves them and helps them. Of course, I still have my logical brain of doing my job, but how I'm going to communicate with them. And so I think it's helped me in both of those ways, knowing myself, staying in alignment, and then really trying to understand my clients and where they're coming from. And I think sometimes in our industry, bringing up ego again, people can be like, well, this is how I communicate as an agent, or this is how I negotiate. Well, if I'm talking to an agent that has a completely different personality than me, and I am bubbly, I love emojis, like I love communicating a certain way. But if I'm talking to an agent that's maybe, more dry, could be my dad, like age-wise or something.
One sentence response.
Right. But I will completely shape like shift how I communicate to negotiate successfully. And that has really served me well, of reading the room and setting aside Callie's ego and being who I need to be to get the job done for my clients.
That's like emotional intelligence.
I agree.
It's literally just being like, who is this human in front of me?
Yeah.
And like, how can I connect with them? And like, how can I build empathy and understanding in myself so that like they feel supported?
This is so good, Jen, because you're 3, we 2, you said. And so for us, 3s are naturally really good at shape shifting is what it's called, being a chameleon, if you will. But other personality types actually struggle to do that, like put their self in someone else's shoes.
That's so wild to me.
It is to me too.
I'm like, how do you not know?
Even with friendships, I'll read my husband a text that like a friend sends me, and I'm like, I don't understand. And he's like, Callie, like the normal person's brain is just thinking of this, and this. But that's what's so cool
crazy.
is that's our superpower. So like giving people grace when they're not shape shifting, but recognizing that is literally what you're good at and why you're good at what you're doing, and using that skill set to help people to be in roles where you do use that skill set because we're good at it. I think that's part of why negotiating comes so naturally to me. Like, yes, I still work on that skill set and practice, but there's a lot of things that are very natural. And I think it's because of that personality trait that we have as 3s.
What's his strength and what's his biggest weakness?
Your biggest strength is being a perfectionist, like the details. You really, you're like, absolutely.
No, like, because I know I'm super detailed. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like rigid.
And that's why you're good with like your job, like literally thinking of you and the numbers and everything that you do. I'd be like, this is at some point, I would start skipping some steps.
No, yeah. It's like our biggest joke in our relationship where it's like, I hate details.
But
like,
I think that's why we work well together. Though.
Exactly.
It's like, I'm very detailed. You're
like,
more big
yeah,
picture.
We got to get there. Like,
and she'll just throw ideas and I'll just be like,
and you're like, Andrew, you can figure out how to get us there, right?
Yeah. I'm just like thinking of the very first step that would take.
But that is your skill set. And I even think of in your profession is like people might have a dream to buy a specific type of house. And you're like, okay, well, here's these different scenarios. Actually, you had sent a video a couple months ago with the new to NAR settlement statement and all the creative ways with financing. I've not seen a lender send me that type of information yet. And I should have texted you, but I was over there like, yes, Andrew, like this is awesome. But that's your skill set of breaking down scenarios, showing people how to get from A to B. And also you hold people to a high standard, which is great in life. Like for us type 3s, helping people not skip steps and understanding the potential that's within them. Ones are so good at showing us what is actually possible because you hold such a high standard for yourself that you show other people what that path looks like. Yeah. And your weakness would just be not giving grace or being too judgmental of other people. Yeah. You are human, so I'm sure that comes out sometimes. But that's what ones can struggle with. Jen's laughing.
Totally. Well,
never.
I think though it all comes back to like having grace with other people and understanding that like everybody doesn't think like you. But I struggle with that. Yeah. Because like you said, it's just like, isn't that common sense?
We all think that.
Yeah. And it's not.
So weird. That's so fascinating.
Isn't it?
Like, I guess I've just never thought, and I think I told you this, but I do like leadership development trainings for school admin. And so I talk a lot about like, just like different leadership things that they need to focus on and connection and like credit, like building trust in their teams and all that stuff. And it's just funny because so much of that job is talking about emotional intelligence. Yeah. And like when I talk to them about it, it's like,
they don't get
a new concept. Like they're like,
you should smile at people. What?
Or like, how do you not like know that? I don't know.
I want to just take a quick step back and your journey into real estate.
Yeah.
It's a hard industry to crack into and to become successful at. Did you struggle at the beginning? And if so, like what were some of your biggest obstacles that you faced?
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone struggles, right? Like that's how you get to where you are. So my husband and I, Kramer's his name. So we moved here in 2020 during COVID, pregnant with our first, knew nobody here. And that was intentional. Like we had been spending, no place ever felt like home for us. We had lived in Arkansas for a little bit. Kansas is where we were born and raised. And then we spent a lot of 2019 just traveling around in different cities that we thought we would love. And then when you're there and you like feel the vibe, it's like, this isn't home, like cool place to visit, but like I can't see us like raising a family here. But Colorado, we had been to multiple times, traveled to Colorado Springs beginning of 2020. So like right before everything shut down, it was like January. We were like, yes, this is the place. And then everything shuts down. And we're like, whatever, we're still going. Because I'm pregnant. And I'm like, I want to like get there, find a doctor, like get settled. So we moved here 2020. That's when I was doing my Enneagram coaching. I had my son at the beginning of 2021 and I was just craving a career change. I really felt stagnant, like I wasn't growing at the level I wanted. That's something that I value is that I'm being pushed as an individual and growing as a person in my career. If I ever become stagnant, I'm like, get me out of here. So Kramer and I had flipped houses before then. So I had real estate like knowledge. We had owned, I think like 4 or 5 different homes at this point. And I kept being, I'd be a really good real estate agent, like saying that like a broken record. He's like, I'm sick of hearing that. Like, go get your freaking license and give it a shot for a year. We have your business still running, like kind of on the back end. Give it go all in for a year. If you hate it and you can't get business, like we'll just go back to your business. If it's going really, really well, we'll figure out what to do with your other business and kind of pivot from there. So I got my license the year's kind of blur. It was 2021, summer of 2021. And I really went all in where I'm like, I know nobody here. We're kind of coming out of COVID, but things are still somewhat shut down. And I started working from coffee shops. I hired a business coach, a real estate business coach, like day one, Buffini and Company. I don't know if you guys have heard of them. Yeah, that's who I hired. I had listened to Brian Buffini's podcast for years before becoming an agent, just loved his business advice. So I hired one of their coaches. And I think it took me 4 months to get my first deal. But then after that, I had a deal every month since. And so it was...
That's pretty good. Like,
I think what helped me is I had nothing to lose. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, no one knows me. Like and I think just staying in alignment with my personality. But what was hard, I would say that I like failed at was I got a little distracted with trying to follow even the Buffini method where I'm like, it's worked for so many agents, but like sending out mailers or doing specific things that didn't feel in alignment with my personality. I would say phone calls, door knocking, sending out mailers, things that I personally don't resonate with. Like when people come and approach me through business, but I love referrals. I love like personal relationship connections. So I would go to coffee shops and be like, I can't leave here until I've talked to like 5 people or 7 people and I can't bring up real estate. I just have to get to know them as a human. But real estate would always come up because they would bring it up. What are you doing here? Why are you working? Or what's your job? And so I'd mention it, but I'm never like, if you're looking to buy or sell, like I never pushed myself. And I really trusted that the right people are going to feel connected to me and the right people, it'll come up. And if it doesn't, like, cool, I just made a new friend or made a connection or maybe made a good impact on someone's day today. And that mentality, it was like the first deal felt so hard to get. And then it just started flowing like one thing after the next. So yeah, I think
that's an awesome way to build your business.
Yeah, it really works for me. Like, again, thinking of personalities, like I loved it and it felt very authentic to me. And anytime I started dabbling into things that weren't in alignment with me, I quickly started to hate real estate or the clients I attracted. I'm like, this isn't the right fit. And I would have like some really rough transactions because I said yes to things that I shouldn't have.
Yeah, that's so cool that you learned that so early on.
Yeah.
I feel like I was like 5 or 6 years into the industry when I started to learn that.
How long have you been in the industry?
15 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like, why am I wearing a suit today? Like, why do I have this jacket on with a tie? Like, it's just so not me.
Yeah.
It's just even that, like, which when I got in the business, that was how everyone dressed.
Right.
So that's how I dressed. Because I'm a loan officer now.
Well, and
even though I was a bartender the week before. Like, I like literally went from like bartending to mortgages.
That's
and
awesome.
It was like but I wish it would have been a little bit smoother I wish I knew myself more to be able to avoid some of that hardship with working with clients and partners that like didn't align.
I do want to say like my Enneagram business, I think did help prepare me a lot for real estate because, and also for Kramer and I flipping houses, there were a lot of things agents did that I was like, I hate this, which is why I would say I think I'd be a good agent. So I would take notes of that, voice memos. I'd be like, this just happened and I didn't like this, or I love this. This agent made me feel this way because of X, Y, and Z. But in my Enneagram business, I did a lot of one-on-one clients. And there was a season where I was just driven for income, like trying to, create a sustainable business, but was miserable getting on coaching calls because of the clients I was coaching. And I think that taught me like those things I was learning as I built that business. A lot of mistakes helped prepare me for real estate where yes, I was new to like getting clients and writing contracts and closing deals, but I wasn't new to business or attracting clients or even marketing, like just knowing how to market clearly to my ideal client who's going to resonate with me. And I think that helped me a lot. Where in my first brokerage, they're like, how are you doing this? And I'm like, yes, I'm new, but also like look at my work history of the past like 7 years and what I've learned. So if we go to that business and look at my mistakes, there's also plenty there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and like, I think that's just such a powerful thing. It just with the personality test in general, like understanding that it's normal for you to be a little bit different, but like you should be, but like embracing that and understanding that you're different and all of these other people that you're going to be coming into contact with, they're unique in their own way too.
And it's so important to be authentically you because those are the people you're attracting.
Absolutely.
Like,
good point.
I mean, every time, like, I just think it's so important in how you like this Jen that you're getting right now is going to be the Jen that you get like wherever you go. And so like people know that. Like,
they feel it.
Yeah, they totally do. Like you feel it, right? When you meet someone, you're like, oh, you're sort of full of it. Like
you can tell.
I mean, I just think especially when you're thinking about like, who are you attracting? Like, it's really important to just be who you are.
Absolutely.
Because that's how you're going to get people you want to work with.
Absolutely.
So do you feel like that would be a good step for someone listening? Like if they're in sales or whatever job they're in and they're struggling because the type of people that they're attracting, maybe it just doesn't align with who they are. Like where would be a good place for them to start?
Journaling. Honestly, like just sitting down with yourself and making a list of like, what do I love about my job? What do I hate about my job? What clients have I loved working with? Why did I love working with them? What did I hate about this specific client that I worked with? How did they talk to me? Like all those things. I could very clearly do that on my like piece of paper. I would draw a line through the middle client I hated working with called the cops on me. They were a little psycho. It was a divorce scenario, like just crazy things going on where their goal was to just get rid of their house. And that's okay. There's people there that's the goal and that needs to be done. And guess what? There's agents that love doing those transactions.
Yeah.
I realized, I got in this business because I love people. I love the relationship. I like the problem solving, like you had mentioned earlier. I like being the calm for people and not freaking out. And so when I started making a list of the clients I loved working with, it was the people who like wanted a relationship with me. We would talk, we would go look at houses, like the showings were fun. I would take them to lunch. And then there's some clients, it's like, I would never take them to lunch because they don't want to be with me and I don't want to be with them. So that for me was like night and day. I was like, of course, this is my ideal client. It was these clients I had served. And so I think when you just truly get that on paper, out of your head on paper, or if you're a verbal processor, I'm also that way. I mentioned voice memos, like on my phone, I will do voice memos all the time. Like any environment that I'm like something I love or hate or have an experience that I'm like, I loved that customer service or I hated going to that restaurant. Like why? I think the more you just process and get it out, you start to see patterns of what you actually value as a human. So I think that would be the first place to start.
That's great advice. Do you go back and listen to the memos or is the therapy in just getting it out?
I think it depends on the thing. Yeah. So when I was on that team for that short stint, I was doing voice memos almost every day because we worked in the office together. And I was doing voice memos on just the team dynamic because I thought I might want a team. Maybe that's something in the future, but right now, like that's not what I'm trying to pursue. But I was doing voice memos on like, don't like this about the culture. This is what I would change. Love this system in place. And so for that, when I was trying to make my decision if I should stay or go, I went back and listened to my voice memos and it was so obvious. I was like, I shouldn't be here. Like I could hear in my own voice, my frustration and things that weren't in alignment with how I do business. So I'm like, why am I here? Yeah. So situations like that, I'll go back and listen. Or like when I go to create a team, like if I'm at that point, I will for sure listen to all those voice memos again. Sometimes it is just therapy of venting and getting it out and sparing my husband from having to hear another venting session.
Andrew, you do voice memos a lot and you went back and listened. What year was that? I feel like you did that.
I did a lot. I did it for a few years, almost daily.
Oh, wow. That's so cool. Kind of like journal entries?
Kind of like that. Yeah, okay, it was a journal entry. Yeah, but it would just be like to and from work.
That's awesome.
But I didn't go back and listen to them. It would be, sometimes I do, but I think that, I don't know, it almost brings me to a place of, I was a different person. I've grown a lot since then. So I don't know. It almost makes me worried that I'll like maybe pick up some of those same ideas and like go back. I don't know, but maybe that's just in my head.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like I kind of resonate with that where it's like, if this listening to my past self is going to serve a future purpose, like give me information or help me create a new path, like I'll listen to it. But yeah, if it was just like get out of your head, I'm so like productive with my time too. I'm like wasted time, like not listening.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about time stuff because you have 2 small kids.
Yep.
A business. Your husband has a business. What sort of things do you structure in your day or in your week or in your year, like as you're thinking about like time management strategies or like things that you're like, if I didn't do this every week, like it would be a problem?
Yeah. Well, the first thing for me is I get really clear on like, what is my goal in the season or multiple goals. So like for this year, my focus is spirituality, my marriage, my health, and our finances. And those 4 came this year. I had taken a retreat by myself and was just journaling. I
love that. Where did you go? Like, was it through like a retreat thing? Or
I literally will just book a hotel. Like I did one a few weeks ago in Breckenridge where I get a place where I'm like not going to run into anyone I know. Yeah. And it's like alone. And usually it's a hotel room where I can get sleep. Like if I need to sleep 12 hours, I can. Time to like, I'll do like a whole spa day. Whatever is relaxing to you. I went on a run. I'll just do things to kind of get me in a state of like being with myself. And it's like, no one needs me right now. And this feels so good to not have to wipe a butt or worry about a nap or anything. So I had done that at the beginning of the year. Where did I go at the beginning of the year? Boulder. I did a hotel in Boulder. Yeah. And I had realized that those 4 areas of my life, I felt like I kept having the same problems and same conversations every year. So like our financial goals, it was the same goal of like getting to a certain financial point that we want to get to for our next move, like for building a house. My health, I've been at like the same like body fat percentage and muscle mass for the longest time and I'm sick and tired of it. So anyways, in spirituality, I just feel like since having kids, I've just felt a little disconnected. And so I was like, if these 4 areas of my life change this year, I will be so proud of myself. And I think other areas like my businesses will totally benefit from these changes. So back to your time and productivity, the win for me daily and weekly is I every single day schedule in those 4 areas. What am I doing today to move my marriage forward? It could be sending my husband a very thoughtful text. It could be writing a note. It could be packing him a lunch. It could be planning an elaborate date that day with him. Same thing in spirituality. It could be connecting for 5 minutes, in prayer or journaling. So it's very small things, but things that's if I move the needle forward every single day in these 4 areas in the course of a year, it will be a huge compound effect. And so for me, that's the win. And then after those scheduled things, it's what else can I fit in each day? And so financially, business does play into that because of our financial goals. I have some income goals and things I'm really focusing on, but my productivity is just so different I have 2 toddlers right now, which feels even different versus a newborn when they're sleeping a lot. And so I take them to the gym where we have 2.5 hours of childcare. And so I'm very intentional with those 2.5 hours. I'm not answering texts. I'm not answering phone calls. I am in a deep work mode zone. I will do my workout for an hour and then I have an hour and a half to work. And I'm nobody talk to me. Nobody need me. Phone is on airplane mode and I'm just busting through things. I utilize nap time for that to move the needle forward. And then when they go to bed at night and during the day, sorry, I might be getting too detailed right now. I can wrap this up. We're currently in a season of not having a nanny. We've gone through all sorts of different childcare scenarios. I had shared with you guys, we don't have any family here. And so it's my husband and I watching our kids, or we've had a full-time nanny, but it just started feeling too much last year. So they're starting a school in the fall where they'll go all day Tuesday and Thursday. So I'll have 2 full work days, which I feel like I can get a month's work of done. In that time frame, as you guys are smiling, you're yes, I get it. Just so productive, with work time. And yeah, I don't want to miss out on their childhood. So that was very intentional. And then there's days my husband will take them today for the full day. And today's my work day that I'm just cranking through a lot of client facing things. And then the days that I have the kids, I'll do a lot of contract working, content creating things from home.
What do you do each week? Do you have, I know one of the things that we do is on Sunday afternoons or nights, we sit down and I go through the last week and look at how it went, structure the next week.
That's so good.
If things went off the rails.
Yeah. This week was a fail. Just kidding.
that was definitely.
Talk about goals.
Yeah. Talk about
do
goals.
A little gratitude session.
And we do it with our kids too. So on Sunday nights, when we all climb into our bed and we talk about what went well, what didn't go. Because we're trying to model for them what we do on our own,
Love that.
Do you have something that you do?
Absolutely.
Okay. I knew you did. Yes.
So every morning I've actually been loving this planner. It's just a daily planner I got off of Amazon. So inexpensive, but it has 1 thing you're grateful for, 3 focuses for the day. You can write your schedule on it. I use my Google Calendar, but every morning that keeps me very grounded. And some days, something changes where I'm I need a new focus today because my focus yesterday didn't get done. And I love that is 3 things because as an Enneagram type 3, I used to put 20 focuses, main focuses and then my to-do list.
Sound familiar?
Yeah. Oh, totally. To-do list is 50 items. And then I'm crying at the end of the day, I'm a failure. My husband's yeah, because you set yourself up for failure. So that has helped me really narrow in where it's if this day, if I get these few things done, it's a win. But on Sundays, yes, the weekly plan, I will go through, I reflect on my prior week. I set my intentions for the week, look at the schedule, and I will meal plan during that time. I look at where I'm driving. So I'm planning the food I'm eating. I used to not do that. Anyone who would listen to me a year ago to now would laugh hearing me say meal plan because I hated it and it stressed me out, but I finally figured out a system that's if I feel better physically, I can have the energy to take care of my business, my kids, and have the energy to work out. And so it was a come to Jesus moment for me where I'm I have to stop telling myself this narrative of I can't meal plan. I'm not a good cook. I have to figure this out. I'm an adult and this is going to help me. So that that's like a non-negotiable for me on Sundays now, is just figuring out like what I'm going to eat, when I'm sleeping, when I'm getting things done. And then on Sunday afternoons, my husband and I take the boys to the gym, and they're like in the childcare for an hour, and we go through our week plan together, just like match up our schedules, and we review our budget, our financial goals, like when we're spending time together that week, just all of it, kind of a quick check-in. But yeah, we try to make it very normal to talk about like business, money, our relationship, how the kids are doing, what do the kids need. It's like one kid's been having more of a tantrum. Like, why are we on our phones too much? Like, what is going on? And just a moment to be able to like check in. And we call it our logistical meeting, because he hates talking about logistics throughout the week. And every time I'd see him, I'd be like, here's this plan and this. He's like, can we just not always be talking about logistics? So Sunday is our day.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
What about like when things go off the rails? Like, is there like in the middle of a week, you know, like if you have something that's like, hey, this was unplanned, today's a really bad day. Like, is there like, what do you do? What do you do to get back on track to make the week not a complete failure?
Such a good question, because this like literally just happened. My husband did 55-mile race, and he got insanely sick after that. Yeah.
55?
Yeah, I'm so proud of him. He
That's
ran
amazing.
his first half marathon a year and a half ago.
My God.
And then he's like, 13 miles, nothing.
Yeah, he's been training diligently. It's so cool. It's been so good for him, I think,
crazy.
to disconnect from business, like running and having that mental space. But anyways, yeah, it was the hardest race he's done yet, and got really sick for like 2 weeks, like literally got bronchitis. He ran it while he was sick, and so it just made it worse. But that happened where it's like, okay, I'm basically a single mom for 2 weeks and taking care of my husband who can't take care of things in his business. And when that happens, it's like, what is like bare minimum that I need to do to take care of myself and my family? And I'm like, eat, sleep, go to the bathroom, like very basic. And it's a win if I can get like additional workouts. Once he's feeling better, I just go back to my basics of like my 4 goals at the beginning of the year were these 4 areas. That's what I'm getting back in routine, is like my running schedule, my lifting schedule is getting back in check, our meal plan, like those basic things. Our house was a disaster. So it's like carving out a day to like catch up on laundry. And then it's just one thing at a time. Like I wish I had some like cool plan. I'm like, it's literally one day at a time trying to get back in the routine.
Well, what I'm hearing too is just like from you is resilience, you know, like when things go, and that's just why I want to bring that up, just because we talk about these ideas all the time, and we have a lot of guests that talk about them as well, but like we struggle with it all the time, you know, and like it's never perfect. But I think what I love about what you're saying is just like, I keep going and I do those 1 or 2 things that I know is important. I get sleep. I try and make myself feel as good as I possibly can by what I consume.
Absolutely.
So that I can hopefully the next week get back on those goals. I think where a lot of people, and where I in the past have failed, is like, okay, the week's done, you know, because today was a bad day. We'll pick it up next week. Yeah. And then it'll go two weeks without looking at your goals or doing the things that you know that you need to do to be successful. So
I wish I remember who said this, but it was so impactful. Probably Ed Milet. He's someone I listen to a lot, but it's like how you handle the bad days is really like who you are. And they're not going to be perfect. So it's like acknowledging like, this is a bad day. Can I still get like a small run in? Like maybe my training plan is running 6 miles today. I can't get a 6 mile in with the time I have, but could I go on a half mile or 1 mile? And it's like those differences, like choosing to do the mile instead of 0 miles. To me, that's reinforcing the identity of like who I am. I'm someone who works out. I'm someone who's disciplined. I work the plan. And it's like how you handle those bad days is everything. And it's that 80-20 rule. If you guys have heard of that, it's like win 80% of the day or 80% of the year. And so every day is not going to be perfect. Like I don't think I've ever had a perfectly executed day. Yeah. But did I do 8 out of the 10 things that I wanted to accomplish today? Yep. So I moved the needle forward.
Yeah. I think when you have what I've learned, and I feel like we learned this, I was really sick for a few years when our kids were born. And we had to travel and I had to have brain surgeries across the country. But what we learned from it is that when you have a routine or like when you have these like identities, right? You can come back to them, you know, like you can go through really hard days, but like it anchors you down to like what you need to do to like get through it. And like, you know, you're not going to hit everything every day, but like when you know, like these are the things that are really important to my day and like how can I tackle like a really hard situation, like that anchors you. And so it's almost like one thing I learned from that experience is like you're going to go through hard stuff in your life.
Absolutely.
And if you can have a routine of things that like make you the best version of yourself, like that's going to get you through like hard stuff. I don't know. Like we've talked about that sometimes where like you have to build the plane before you're like flying it.
So true.
And
That's good.
I think sometimes people like are going through a hard time and then they're like, oh my God, like I have to, and you just naturally want to go to those like negative like habits, right? But if you have them like embedded in your routine and who you are, that can really help you get through like some difficult experiences.
Absolutely. And I think as humans, naturally we try to resist the hard things, but I've really tried to change my relationship with it where it's like, this hard thing is a gift. Like my kid waking up in the night last night, like this is a gift and an opportunity for me to grow. And the more you change your relationship with the hard things and honestly put yourself through hard things, then the hard things in life don't feel that hard because you're the one putting yourself through hard things. So if my workout was harder than my kid's tantrum, it's like, I got this. Like
you're conditioned to like be okay with hard stuff.
Yes. And and releasing the perfectionism. Like we talked about discipline in the beginning. And I would have thought it was crazy if you would have said I would go to bed without my house being like perfectly picked up. But like there's nights where like that is really hard within my soul that I'm like, I don't want to go to bed with a messy kitchen and I don't advocate for that. But I'm like, my body needs more sleep right now. And like there's just sometimes things that you have to release and let go and have the wisdom and maturity in that moment to understand what's more important in this moment.
Yep.
And me getting sleep because my kids are asleep right now is more important and I can clean the kitchen in the morning. Like that's not saying I'm lazy. Like I know I'm not lazy. I know I'm someone that's going to keep my house clean, but having that discernment to know what's best for you in that moment.
Totally. Okay. If you could write a book about one thing, what would it be about?
Intentionality. I don't know the exact title of the book, but I have had on my heart to write someday. I really believe I will. Just about living a life with intention. I think so many people sleepwalk through life. They hate their job. They complain about everything. It's like, this is your life. This is your one shot. Like, wake up to it and you create the life that you're living. And yes, we don't have all control of circumstances, but you have control of your mind, your attitude. And when we live our life with intention in all areas, parenting, business, health, like your relationship with yourself, it's just amazing how beautiful life is. And I think my kids have helped me see that, like the awe and wonder of them seeing a bird yesterday eating a worm, like how fascinated they were. I'm like, I want that fascination with life and that excitement over everything. And it doesn't come without intentionality. You have to be so intentional to put down all the distractions, like we were saying. So I would love to write a book about living a life with intention.
I love that. And your podcast is about that, right?
Yep.
So before we close up, talk to folks where they can find you and like where they can find your podcast.
Yeah. CallieAmmons.com is where everything lives. And then my podcast is called The Hidden Drive. I've changed the title name like 10 times, but yeah, the messaging hasn't changed. It's just about living with intention. And so sometimes I'm talking about money, sometimes business, sometimes parenting, but just really how to give intention to the life that you're living. And there's tools. So that's called The Hidden Drive. Or if you just search my name, Callie Ammons, on any podcasting platform, it's there. I'm on Instagram, but I'm not ever on Instagram, if you know what I mean. So don't find me there. Social media is just, am not my best self when I'm consuming it. So find me on my podcast or website or in real life.
Check her out. She's awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, guys. This was fun.
Great.
Could talk to you guys for hours.
And thanks everybody for listening. We'll catch you next time.